Okay, so I'm going to show you all of the diagnostic and test equipment that I use to troubleshoot the Bosch k-jetronic fuel injection system used on a Delorean and Porsches and Volkswagens and what have you. Some of this is, well, most of this stuff is borrowed and belongs to other people, but scooped it all together to troubleshoot a Delorean. So first up is this smoke tester. It's an Auto SDT 103. Takes baby oil. You basically put it in the top there, hook it up to a compressor, so you need to have your own air supply. It comes with a strange fitting that I couldn't work out what it was, so I just adapted it into my local airline. Clipped onto a battery, and it comes with a whole host of different adapters and valves and things, so you can got different ways of blocking things up. This is all I needed to test it. This is really useful for checking for vacuum leaks. So you close everything up, inject smoke, and wherever smoke comes from is going to be a vacuum leak. This bit of kit is a spark plug tester. I'd say this is sort of, in terms of quality and usability, that's sort of a 7 or 8 out of 10. They're not expensive to buy. I can't remember which they were, but less than £100. This is about £25. It's a spark plug tester. Plugs into the mains. You drop your spark plugs in the top there, and it shows you whether they're sparking or not. Fairly unimpressed with this one. So SPT 101. It works. It does the job, but it doesn't seem to deliver a nice big fat spark. So it will show you whether the plug's working. But I think I'd rather just make my own using a proper ignition coil, so it sends a nice decent fat spark into it and you can see whether the spark plug's breaking down. Next up is this piece of equipment. This is a Kane EGA 5. This is a 5 gas analyzer. This is a very expensive piece of kit. The owner of it has got several cars that need analysing and what have you, so I just decided to buy it. Very, very useful, very expensive. This thing is in the order of £2,000, £2,500. Few people are going to have the luxury of having access to one of them. There are cheaper ones. You don't really need a 5 gas analyzer. All we're trying to do really is just check for CO and lambda and that. But yeah, that's a really nice piece of kit. Very useful for checking your emissions, seeing whether you're rich, lean, hydrocarbons. It does the lot. This is just a timing light. This is a snap-on timing light. Fairly old, but still high quality. For the Delorean, this has got a dial back feature, so you can dial back the amount of degrees on the damper. So if the damper is marked at 0 degrees or TDC, you can dial this back to like minus 10 degrees, so you don't have to mark the damper. Unfortunately, on the Delorean, the damper is marked at the correct timing marks. So a very, very basic timing light is all you need. You don't necessarily need this one. So yeah, it's useful but not essential. Next up is the Mighty Vac. This lets you test vacuum and pressure. It's essentially just a pressure pump or a vacuum pump for testing pressures and vacuums. Very useful. I use that to test the warm-up regulator delay valve, which I've posted in another video. You can use it on wastegates, on turbos, anything that's vacuum sensors, map sensors. You can test whether they're working or not. So relatively cheap to buy. So it's a Mighty Vac. Well useful in the garage. Next up, so this is a fuel pressure testing kit. This is really useful, especially on the CIS fuel injection systems. Shows you the pressure. So on a Delorean, we're trying to see the control pressure and the system pressure. This is the hose that goes on the Delorean or any CIS system. This one leads to the center or to the top of the fuel distributor. The pipe then comes down. The valve or the tap needs to be on the warm-up regulator side. and then that T piece goes up to the pressure gauge. So if you want to test the control pressure, you have the valve open in that position. And if you want to test the system pressure, which is basically the pressure that the pump's putting out, I can't close it on my own. Oh, there we are. So if you want to test the system pressure, you have the valve closed, and that then goes to full pressure, and you can see that's on a Delorean. You're looking for about 70-80 psi. When it's open, that should drop down to 40 odd psi, 3 barish I think it is. I can't remember exactly what the figure is. It comes with adapters, so essentially you take off you remove the hose that leads, so the hose that leads from the center of the fuel distributor that goes to the warm-up regulator, you remove the hose at the warm-up regulator end. This hose goes to the fuel distributor, and then this one just replaces where it went, and that's how you do the testing for that. So that's for fuel pressure testing. Next up is when you're trying to do fuel pressure testing, you need to force the fuel pump to come on. So on a Delorean there's something called the RPM relay, and what this is just a relay that sees that you're getting an ignition system, an ignition signal to prove that the engine's running, and it keeps the fuel pump running. When you want to test the fuel pressures, you need to bypass that relay so it's always running. So you just use a crimped wire. The RPM relay also controls the lambda relay. So there's 2 outputs. There's a live in, and then there's a live out to the fuel pump, and then there's a live out that goes to the lambda relay to make the lambda or the frequency valve operate. So this slightly better version is the same one. I can't remember the colors now, but you basically put that into live, and you put one into the fuel pump output, and the other one into the lambda relay output, and then I've just got a simple toggle switch on the end of it, and the toggle switch just lets me sit in the engine bay and then switch it on from the engine bay. The problem about putting the pump on on a Delorean, the RPM relay is inside the car, so you always have a danger of like switching the pump on, and it could be leaking from when you've done the pressure test. When you've inserted the pressure tester, sometimes the copper washers leak, so you don't really want to be putting this wire on and then walking back round to the back of the car and seeing it's leaking petrol everywhere. So I made this adapter cable, just a simple toggle switch, put that onto the RPM relay, run that round to the engine bay, and then I can just switch it on and off. Next up is my handheld oscilloscope. It's you can see it's pretty small. This is really useful. So it's an oscilloscope and a digital voltmeter, so it's a DVM, so it measures all I don't use the current on it, but you can measure voltage and current on it. But most usefully it's an oscilloscope. So you can put this onto the diagnostic output on a Delorean and then you can check the frequency valve mark space ratio or the duty cycle. So this is really, really useful. This is a I don't know how to pronounce it, Zoe. The main thing to do is search for a ZT702S. It comes under different brand names and that. These are about 50 or 60 quid. You'll find them on AliExpress, eBay. They're always cheaper on AliExpress, but useful piece of kit, very handy. You know, that's almost cheap enough just to leave in the car all the time for doing electrics. It comes with a fairly decent set of leads as well for just checking voltages and that. And then finally, I've just got my own sort of, you know, what I'd call a semi-professional meter. So this is a Bryman BM867S. This is a good quality meter. I think it's 5 or 6 counts, so it's very accurate. If I'm trying to measure something that needs to be accurate, I'd always use this one. This is more accurate than the equivalent flute meter, but yeah, if you just check whether you've got 12 volts somewhere, this is useful. Also, I had a problem with the indicators on the Delorean, and if you just put a voltmeter onto the output, because it's switching on and off, you can't really see what's going on. Whereas with an oscilloscope, if you have it on a slow sweep, you can see it. It would actually look very much like that. I was just on the test port at the moment, but you can see the indicator coming on and off. And on the Delorean we actually had a loose connection, so when you was wobbling the wires around you could actually see the signal breaking down and disappearing, which with an ordinary voltmeter you just can't see that. You can't see the electricity in 2 dimensions, which is really all an oscilloscope does. So nice and cheap, doubles up as a meter, and it's nice and rugged. You know, yeah, you're not going to do electronic grade calibrations and measurement but for automotive work you want to check that fuel injectors firing and things like that. It's brilliant for that. So yeah, that's about it really. Quite a lot of test equipment, much of it isn't mine, but this stuff came in invaluable to track down a problem with CIS k-jetronic injection on our famous Delorean. Thank you.